Super Talk 99.7 WTN, Matt Murphy and you. Glad to have you with us on this episode 927. How about that? We have a big show. I promised you a big show in store, and hopefully you enjoyed the first hour. Hopefully you enjoyed the last 3 hours. We appreciate you being here. We've got coming up in the third hour, I guess it is, we will go over some of the property tax issues involving local businesses in Davidson County. I mentioned that Dennis Ferrier had a great piece on it. We talked about it last week. We've talked about it several times with Mayor Freddie O'Connell, and he has been relatively dismissive of the concerns of local businesses, and we will discuss that coming up in the next hour. Right now, we'll turn our attention back to the 7th Congressional District race. Obviously, it's one of those deals where folks are not accustomed in these odd-numbered years to go into the polls and voting, but there is an election happening. The first couple of days of, I guess, is December 2nd. I think that's right. So that's just, 2 weeks away now? It's 2 weeks from today, as a matter of fact, will be the final voting. Early voting's happening right now in the District 7 race. And we oftentimes talk about the two candidates with a D or an R behind their names. Afton Bain is the Democrat. She's got Kamala Harris campaigning for her today, which demonstrates to me that she really doesn't care about winning, apparently. And then we oftentimes discuss Matt Van Epps, who is the Republican, but there is a third name, that at least one other name that you'll see on the ballot. I don't know if there's any others, but we had a chance to speak with our next guest, John Thorpe, and wanted to schedule him on to talk to him about his candidacy, why he decided to run as an independent candidate, and he joins us in studio today. John Thorpe, thank you for being on with us.
Hey, Matt, appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. Give folks a little background on you, who you are, what you're all about, what you do for a living, that kind of thing.
Sure. I joined the military way back in '99, and I was in about 10 years. This was most of it was spent up at Fort Campbell. I was a Chinook pilot, and got out, did some civilian stuff. The last 12 years, I've been an air ambulance pilot, and now I'm up in Robertson County with little kind of a mini farm, I suppose you could speak, and 2 young kids.
So you served for roughly 10 years in the military. Thank you for your service. We absolutely appreciate you. And I just, that's the end of that sentence. I just wanted to thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. What was your service like?
It was interesting. It was eye-opening. There's a series out, I think HBO put it out, called Band of Brothers. And I think that series probably puts it best. I've never had the same level of camaraderie and brotherhood that you have in the military. And it's come close with air ambulance, because you're with the same crews for extended periods of time. I assume it's probably the same with fire and things like that. But
sure,
it was very, very rewarding to be alongside people who want to be there for the country and for each other and to do better for society in general.
What leads you into politics? Have you always been a political guy?
I have always been political. My dad was an over-the-road trucker, so he brought home Rush Limbaugh and all those guys. So I grew up as a Republican. You're the product of your upbringing. And when I joined the Army, I was still interested in all that. I was voting assistance officer for the unit, and I involved myself with the think tanks, Heritage Foundation, Cato, and all that. And I gradually sort of expanded my horizon and eventually started getting introduced to economics, and eventually got a degree in Austrian economics. And it was actually the continuing resolution bill earlier this year that was the tipping point that brought me to actually run for politics.
Tell me what was it about that specifically created a desire for you to run?
It seems a little bit weird, and I think ultimately it was sort of a gradual building of everything. But in retrospect, it represented to me that because if you remember, this was Biden's spending bill, and you would expect all the Democrats to vote for it and all the Republicans to vote against, but it was the exact opposite, pretty much. The only Republican that voted against it was Thomas Massie out of Kentucky, and in return for him standing on principle, they tried to primary him, or they threatened to. His primaries next year, but it recognized that represents basically what I think is wrong with government in general. Is if you toe the line, if you're basically a yes man, you're going to do what you're told, conformity, then that's what it gets you promoted. But if you're standing on principle, if you're doing what is best for the people in your district, especially if that goes against what the status quo wants you to do, then that gets you thrown to the wolves.
So you would have voted against the CR?
Absolutely.
What would have happened had not a majority of the Republican or a majority of the elected officials voted for the continuing resolution? What would have been the result of that?
Had they not?
Yeah.
Well, they would have had a shutdown. They would have had a shutdown. But that's the consequences of it, whether it's a shutdown or not, I think are not the case.
But you should understand the consequences.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, sure.
What would have prevented that is for the Congress to vote on a spending bill every month as they should. That is probably, I would say, the core duty of Congress is to ensure the funding of the government, and they failed to do that. So that's on them. They should not be rolling these things constantly into an emergency bill, and they definitely should not be kicking the can down the road. They shouldn't be continually raising the debt ceiling, which is completely irrelevant at this point in time. We know every time they hit it, it's meaningless because they just bump it up more. So they're messing with monetary policy and future generations' ability to live because they cannot be strong enough to address these things from a political angle. It's going to be political suicide for a lot of them, and so they don't do it.
So you don't, the Republicans in leadership in the Trump administration and some in the House, and I don't pretend that I know the real answer, but they say that they've got 3 appropriates bills that came out of the Senate. Those have been voted on now in the House. They're working on the 9 others, and they do want to separate the omnibus spending packages into 12 separate appropriates. That's been their approach. So had you been in Congress during the shutdown, you would have voted with Massey as well to continue the shutdown?
This most recent one?
Yeah.
I haven't
because that was a CR too. So yeah. I'm just curious, would you have voted against that CR?
I would have to look at it. I didn't look at it very closely. I think, as I understand, that one was basically the continued from all the spending bills prior to. And probably, yes, I probably would, because the government spends way, way too much. And
agreed.
I would put that as a corner of what I'm running for. I think there needs to be fiscal sanity, fiscal responsibility, and they will never do that as long as they continue to pass these massive omnibus bills and just continue supporting them fiscally. There's no reason to destroy the currency through excessive monetary or money printing, which is what they're going to have to do. Whenever they run a deficit, they have to create new money, and that lowers the value of the dollar that's in my pocket, in your pocket, and everybody else. So it forces us to basically gamble with our money in order to save for the future.
Right, but specific to the CR passed the House and got to the Senate, and that's when it got quagged up. Mm-hmm. But Massey voted against it in the House, and I'm just curious, you mentioned him. Would you have voted against the CR passage in the House? So the fiscal year ended September 31st, mm-hmm. and they had to extend the CR, and they wanted to extend it to November, and now it's extended to January 30th, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm just curious where you would have been had you been a congressman during that vote in the House, the latest CR.
I'd have to look at it. I've been too busy focusing on the campaign. You've
been too busy focusing on being a congressman, and you don't know how you would have voted in this last congressional.
I'm focused on trying to get the message out to the people who are spread throughout 14 counties in Tennessee, and it takes thousands of dollars. There's been $3.5 million, probably well more than that, spent trying to get people's names out. I am running arguably a very uphill battle because I don't have any support whatsoever, and I'm continually ignored by the legacy media outlets who pretend that independents are basically irrelevant and are spoiler votes.
Mm-hmm. But you're here today.
Right.
It's a well listened to radio station. So, what is your primary message? Would you consider yourself a Republican? Are you running as an independent? Why are you running as an independent?
I actually submitted initially back in March to run as a Republican, and I don't qualify under the bylaws of the Tennessee Republican Party. So they refused to consider an exception to policy. So I ran as an independent.
Why did they say you didn't? I mean, I know Scott Golden, and I've had my back and forth with him about some of the onerous rules that they have within the party. Why did they say you didn't qualify?
He didn't answer. He didn't. Well, I mean, I haven't voted in 3 of the last 4. I haven't voted since 2000. I've said that many times.
Why not?
Because I don't believe that we should have to vote for the lesser of 2 evils.
So you've never voted for Trump?
Nope.
You haven't voted since 2000?
Correct.
Who'd you vote for in 2000?
George Bush.
And I'm just very curious what, between that vote and the next election cycle, whether it was 2002 or 2004, I mean, you just felt like...
So the election
help me understand that.
So the election of 2000 was the Hanging Chad incident. And for whatever reason, I was able to give myself a 50,000-foot perspective on it. And there was flip-flopping. It was basically an example of widespread hypocrisy, in my opinion. They had people on either side that were either supporting or demeaning the court system based on whether or not their particular party was in the lead at that particular time. And if you remember, they kind of went back and forth, the courts did, on whether or not who was winning. And if it was your party that was winning, they'd say, see, you got to trust the system, and this is why we have it. And then the next day when it would flip, they'd say, these are just activist judges, and we need to ignore it. They're controlling the election cycle. And it was just, for me, it was an eye-opening moment because they literally were changing the narrative from a day-to-day basis based on if their party was winning. It had nothing to do with reality.
I'm just make sure I'm hearing you. You're talking about the aftermath of the 2000 election during the time that it was...
While they were counting it, while they were doing the hanging chad and all that stuff.
That created as a disillusionment. So you decided to stop voting, and I assume your registration went inactive?
Yes, it went inactive, and I would have voted.
When did you register to vote?
I don't remember. It's been so long ago. Probably
no.
2000.
I mean most recently. I mean,
earlier this year.
Okay, so you just registered to vote this year.
Yeah.
Have you voted this year?
Yeah.
Who did you vote for?
For myself.
Okay, so I mean, you just voted in the special.
Yeah. Because it's the only election that we've had so far.
So you've not. So the last election you voted in was 2000. You voted for yourself this last time. Are you? Would you consider yourself a Republican? Would you consider yourself conservative? How do you define yourself ideologically?
Well, I certainly lean more conservative than anything else. Based on the infighting of the Republican Party, I'm not real sure what they believe in anymore. I'm a limited government, staunch constitutionalist. Fiscal responsibility. I would say I'm more closely aligned to a Ron Paul. I'm a Ron Paul Republican.
Right.
If that makes any sense.
I mean, no, it does. I mean, no, you're talking to the right guy. I mean, I define myself as a small little libertarian. What informs you that is your belief in government?
What do you mean, what informs me?
I mean, just what informs you that that's what you believe? Talk to me about your political philosophy and why you believe the way you believe.
I think... Largely speaking, you can break things down. Thomas Sowell put it really well. I can't remember the name of the book that he wrote, but he breaks society down basically into constrained and unconstrained parties. And it's how you look at the world in general. And I think it's a good proxy for the Republican and Democrat parties. The Republicans in general will think that people are fallible, and we need to do our best to create systems that control for that. But you have to simultaneously realize that people can abuse the system. So you need to set up the rules in such a way that makes it as fair as possible. The contrast to that, which I would argue is the Democratic Party, says that people can get better, and if given enough education and training and the right person, you can have close to a saint as possible, maybe not necessarily that quality. So the issue is our systems. We can do a better job of putting people in power to make the systems make it more effective and more efficient for people, more equality.
John, I'm trying. I'm not really following what you're saying. The systems, so help me understand this.
So the difference basically is whether or not a person thinks that we need to restrain with a system or empower with a system, I think. Mm-hmm. It's almost like a utopian versus a dystopian view.
Who are the dystopians? That would be the
or a
Republicans,
realist.
right?
I would say it's more of a realist, but it could taken to its extreme, it would be dystopian. Yeah, the whole system ultimately gets that way. So let me try it this way. Limited.
Are you saying that the Republican Party would, left unabated, would lead to a police state?
It certainly has been going that direction. So yeah.
Under Trump?
Yeah.
So you're not a Trump guy?
I'm not a Trump guy.
Okay. Very good. All right, let's take a short time out. We'll talk about some of the issues that matter most to you in this election and those types of things with John Thorpe. He's our guest. It's 21 after the hour. Quick timeout. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Thank you, Ken Weaver. Super Talk 99.7 WTN 426, talking with John Thorpe. He's an independent running for the 7th Congressional District seat that was vacated by Mark Green. A number of questions coming in for John. You can get them in, 615-737-9986. Right before the break, John, kind of set you up to talk about some of the issues that you feel like define your candidacy. We talked a little about you, your background. So what issues do you believe should be most important in this race, and what issues do you talk about when you get out and about?
First and foremost, when I started was balanced budget. I think fiscal and monetary policy is massive. We're basically squandering our future generations on our own behest. So that needs to change. And it wasn't actually until I started running. Had you asked me a couple months ago, I never would have put election reform, campaign finance within probably my top 50, but I would put it at easily top 2 now. I don't think we can make real, honest changes in the government and address things like healthcare and immigration and the budget until we can get people who are not beholden to the party lines. And so that's going to have to require term limits and changes in how we do things.
So you, and I'm just trying to just set this up in my head. So you initially wanted to run as a Republican, but now you want to kind of, as you have seen the system play out as a candidate, as an independent candidate, you want election reforms. What sort of reforms?
Well, I think Tennessee does it right, having open primaries. A lot of these things are set at the state level. Thankfully, Tennessee only required me to have 25 signatures to appear on the ballot, but there are many that require you to have tens of thousands of signatures, which represents a huge hurdle. And that's only for independent candidates. It's going to be significantly lower in many states for the major parties. Campaign finance reform, like I said. And, I think it's just it represents I would say it's a monopoly. The two parties hold a monopoly on power in the government, and the people in general are upset at it. They feel like they're ignored, they're disillusioned, like I was for 20 plus years. They feel like they don't get listened to. The politicians say one thing when they're on the campaign trail and then do something completely different when they get to Washington. And so I think the best way that we can change that is by putting new people in there who are not politicians, who are not beholden to those parties.
You mentioned campaign reform, and monetary reform when it comes to political campaigns. What do you mean by that?
I don't have a good answer for that. I don't know what the possibilities are. I just know that.
Let me ask you this. Do you believe money equals speech?
No, I don't think it does. I think it equals influence for sure.
But it can't equate to speech. In other words, to get a word out about your political campaign. I mean, you've spent money on television ads, right?
I have not, no.
I haven't seen you on the TV. Or I guess maybe it was online. The fire ad was just online?
Yeah, that was online.
Had you the money, spend money on television?
Well, I think you have to, and that's part of the problem is the only way you can get out and reach people is by having the money to do so. And that requires you either to be rich or you have to have donors coming in. And as soon as you have people giving you money, then you're going to have favors that you owe. So, again, I don't know what the exact answer is. I just know that.
Or maybe those people just believe in you. It could go the other way, right?
Yes,
a group of people get together and they really believe in John Thorpe and what he stands for. And they say, hey, John, we want to support your campaign and make sure that people know about you. We want to give you. Would you refuse that money?
Well, it depends on what they're wanting. If they believe in me, no, of course not. Why would you?
But your suggestion is that every other candidate that receives money from political donations is doing so as a quid pro quo. That's what you just said.
No,
You said money equals favors. You just said that.
It does. If it depends on who it's coming from and what strings are attached to it.
But if you're talking about campaign reform, we can't make those types of exceptions. It depends on this person or that person.
You're right. I understand. That's why I said I don't know what the exact answer is, because if you limit for one person, you're going to limit for everybody. And there are legitimate uses. You should be able to donate to someone who you believe in. Have you taken
any campaign donations?
Yeah, of course I have.
Does that make you beholden to the people that you took them from?
Yeah, absolutely. Because they want you to.
So if they tell you to vote, if you're in Congress and those people that gave you donations tell you to vote a certain way, you would?
They're going to give me money to promote a particular idea. And so if I do not follow through on those ideas, then I would say that is not
No. The question was, you said that it made you beholden to these people.
Mm-hmm.
So my question is, if you are a congressman and these people that gave money to your campaign called you and said, John, we want you to vote this way, would you do it?
No, that's not your job as a representative.
So
it's to listen to them and do what's best for them.
You have character and backbone, but you suggest that the other people that are in Congress don't?
No, that's not what I'm suggesting. I'm suggesting that depending on where the money is coming from, let's say there was $3 million that has come in so far in this race, and a lot of that has come from mysterious, dark super PACs, whatever.
You've been the beneficiary of a lot of that.
That's a perfect example. So I was emailed by a supporter who was curious about one of the points on my mailer. Can you clarify a little bit? And that was the first time I'd ever heard about a mailer. And so we have big money that's able to introduce mailers and other advertisements into the campaign, presenting themselves as if it's coming from the candidate, potentially misrepresenting what they even stand for. And I don't think they should be able to do that. I think there needs to be reform, and how you get that out, I don't know. But there are a lot of people who have been looking at this for many years.
The Your Community PAC or whatever it is?
Yeah, Your Community PAC.
And let's talk about that for a minute, and I want to talk about term limits with John Thorpe. I want to give him a full hour to talk about his candidacy for the 7th Congressional District. We continue the conversation right after this at Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Super Talk 99.7 WTN, Matt Murphy and the Matt Murphy Radio Show. Thank you for being with us. John Thorpe's in studio with us. He's running as an independent in the 7th Congressional District, discussing with him some of his philosophies that he carries with him around the district as he speaks to the people. Obviously, early voting is ongoing right now, and voting day happens in 2 weeks, December 2nd. We were talking about some of this agenda-based money that seems to be directed toward you. What do you think the purpose behind the Your Community PAC organization is? They send out flyers. It's to your benefit. You're not affiliated with them, but you're aware of it. What do you think's going on there?
So, anybody with a brain knows that they're trying to siphon votes away from the Republican Party. It's it's very clearly it only has me and Matt Van Epps on the mailer. It's got a bunch of check marks that imply that I'm the better candidate on there, a bunch of red X's under Matt's name. And so I think they're going after the people who are maybe a little disillusioned, maybe the ones that are not entirely sure that they want to vote for a Van Epps because of some of his stances. There's been a lot of backlash on that Epstein thing that keeps running around.
Mm-hmm.
Again, there's even a lot of people that are just upset at the party in general because of there's a larger split that's happening, I think, in both parties, where they're upset once again at not being heard. They're talking about things that are not necessarily relevant for the people and in general. It's not about the tariffs, transparency, wars, all these things that they on the Republican side, I think, elevated Trump into office to solve. A lot of them have not been followed through.
It kind of goes to my next question. What you said earlier that you weren't a Trump guy. Specifically, why aren't you a Trump guy?
Well, again, I think we should be voting for a person, not necessarily voting for the lesser of two evils. He was definitely the lesser of two evils at the last election, but I don't agree with a lot of what he has done or has stood for. I think he dropped the ball very, very massively with the COVID response, and he had said that he was going to clean the swamp, and I don't think he'd ever really address that.
Yeah, but you didn't vote for him the first time.
Correct. I didn't either. Correct. But that sets the stage for what he's going to do the second time around.
You understand that, I mean, some people, it causes them a little pause that you haven't seen a single candidate in the last 25 years.
No, that's not true. Ron Paul. I would have
immediately to vote for.
I would have voted for Ron Paul. I would have voted for RFK Jr.
You said you haven't voted for anybody in 25 years. Correct. So there hasn't been a candidate on the ballot in the last 25 years that you believed in enough to vote for.
Well, there probably were at the local and lower levels.
But you didn't.
Yeah, I
But you're asking people to vote for you. Why are you better than the last 25 years in your political experience?
Oh, I'm not. I am just like them. I am a disillusioned voter. I am asking them to vote basically for themselves. I sat there in my hotel room in Denver watching the news on this continuing resolution and again echoing the sentiment that I've been having for 20 plus years of somebody needs to step forward and be better than these clowns that are running the show. And I looked in the mirror and I said, well, why not you?
So you, in your estimation, you're a better candidate than Donald Trump.
Sure. I mean, I'm not running for president, but
I understand. But because Donald Trump did not meet that bar, but you believe you do.
Yes.
Why?
Honesty, transparency, fiscal responsibility, accountability. Take your pick.
Okay, so let's do the transparency thing then. How did you select your website designer?
I didn't. My campaign manager did.
Are you familiar with the background of your website designer?
Nope. Don't really care.
You don't care?
Nope.
It's a leftist organization.
Okay.
That has only, outside of you, to my knowledge, supported leftist candidates.
Okay.
That doesn't bother you?
No, why should it?
I'm just wondering who picked them?
If they are qualified at their job, then I don't really care what they do. Do you care that Amazon? Do you use Amazon or Walmart or Apple?
No, I don't go to
all
Walmart,
these companies do all kinds of things that we don't necessarily agree in. But if they're good at what they're doing,
tell me how you picked your website designer.
Again, I didn't.
Who did again?
My campaign manager.
Who's your campaign manager?
What does that matter? His name is Austin.
Austin what?
Austin Campbell.
Austin Campbell. Uh-huh. How did Austin Campbell pick your website designer?
I don't know. I imagine he looked at a number of people. He probably had word of mouth, some referrals. That's generally how.
Do you find
there's not a whole lot of people in political landscapes that?
So
that
we've got a leftist organization,
mm-hmm.
Your Community PAC, that's spending hundreds of thousands of dollars supporting your candidacy,
mm-hmm.
and then I find out that the person that designs the company that is designing your website, I can tell you who it is.
Next Gen.
It's Next Gen, but the woman that owns Next Gen is a woman by the name of Gabriella Saligia,
mm-hmm.
or Saligia, who is a leftist organizer out of Wisconsin. She's a socialist.
Okay.
And she's the one that you picked to design your website, and I'm just wondering how that selection happened.
Well, see, everybody talks about how Trump plays 4D chess, but I've actually been playing 9D chess. 3 months before Mark Green announced retirement, I decided that I was going to throw my hat in the ring and run as a Republican, just pretending, knowing that in 3 months he was going to retire early, and then I was going to switch to an independent, and then I was going to get all this money supported from left-wing organizations to just siphon away votes from Van Epps, who I knew was going to win the primary.
Right. So
do you realize how ridiculous that sounds?
No. I understand you're getting upset.
Well,
I'm just asking a question.
It's silly.
How you decided to pick a leftist socialist to design your website when there's 1,000 different website designers.
They were available
out there.
And they did a good job.
Do you believe that there's a difference between Afton Bain and Matt Van Epps?
Oh, sure.
Who's the preferable candidate if you were not in the race?
I wouldn't vote for either one of them.
It's not the question I asked you. Who do you believe is the preferable candidate? Obviously, you wouldn't vote for either of them. John, you haven't voted in 25 years.
Well, there you go.
I mean, why would anybody vote for you when you haven't seen fit to vote for any candidate for political office?
Because once
whatsoever
again,
in 25 years.
I'll tell you. because the candidates that are good, the Ron Pauls, the Jody Barretts, I would have voted for Jody Barrett.
Didn't Ron Paul? Wait a minute.
Hang on. No, I'm trying to.
Didn't Ron Paul run in a primary as a Republican?
Yeah, he did.
And you didn't vote for him?
I was not voting for in the primary. I wasn't voted. I wasn't registered as a Republican at that time.
You said you would vote for Ron Paul.
Yes, I would have.
And Ron Paul ran as a political candidate during that 25 years of time.
Not in the general.
He ran as a primary candidate?
He didn't run in the general. I couldn't vote for him.
I'm not asking you about the general. I'm asking you about the primary.
Okay. I would have voted for him, yes.
But you didn't. He ran.
You're right. I wasn't registered as a Republican at that point in time. I was an independent.
But you didn't see fit to register because Ron Paul was in the race. That wasn't important enough.
I was already registered.
What? You just said you weren't, and now
as
you're
a
saying
Republican.
you are.
As a Republican, I was registered as an independent at that point in time.
Right.
So I could not vote in a Republican primary.
All right. I mean,
I would have voted for him.
I think we're talking
in the general.
I think we're talking in circles.
Whether or not I would have or did, I think is irrelevant. I would have voted for Jody Barrett had I not. And again, but the point is that there is a structure that, and all this money that is being put in, and people.
Why didn't you vote for? Wait, you would have voted for Jody had you not been in the race?
Yeah.
But you only registered. I mean, you registered to vote because you ran, because you started running.
Correct.
Well, that doesn't.
We're playing hypotheticals.
That doesn't make any sense. You brought it up. I didn't bring it up. You brought it up. You said I would have voted for Jody Barrett. I didn't bring any of that up.
You did, because you said you wouldn't vote. You're saying there are no candidates anywhere that you would ever vote for. I would vote for Monty Fritz.
And you said Ron Paul. You said, I mean, I was asking about presidential candidates over the last 25 years. You said Ron Paul. Ron Paul ran for president over the last 25 years.
And I would have voted for him. I would have also voted for RFK Jr.
But you didn't.
But I didn't, because neither one of them were in the general election. I don't know why that's a hard concept.
They were in a primary.
We're not talking about the primary.
Yes, we are, John. We're talking about the primary.
No, we're not. We're talking about the general election.
We're talking about voting.
Yes.
We're talking about registering as a Republican to vote.
How many people vote in the general but don't vote in the primary?
Where did Ron Paul run as a presidential candidate? Do you know?
Yeah, he ran for the. What do you mean? Where did he run? He ran throughout the entire United States.
He ran as a what?
As a Republican.
Right.
Yes.
And you said I would have voted for him, but you didn't when he ran.
Correct.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay. That's fine. That asked and answered. I asked the question. You said I would have voted for Ron Paul, and then I said, well, Ron Paul ran for president, and you didn't vote for him, and you said that's correct. That's correct. And that makes sense to you.
Yes.
Okay, very good. So understanding that your community PAC is a socialist organization, which you obviously do, understanding that they're attempting to use your candidacy and recognizing that Matt Van Epps is a better candidate than Afton Bain, does that cause you any discomfort that you're being used as a pick?
Sure. I think it's despicable.
But you haven't sought them out to ask them to stop?
What am I going to do?
You call them up and you say you need to stop sending flyers out to in using my likeness in your flyers.
Yeah, we could certainly probably do that. We're considering filing a complaint to FEC or whoever is in charge of those things. I am a grassroots campaign. I can barely afford yard signs, so I'm not going to be able to afford legal fees to run down anything to do with a suit against them. As you pointed out during the break, it's money is speech, so it's not like I can restrict them from doing whatever they want to do. It's not illegal, and this is the name of the game. This is dirty politics. You know, this is someone earlier today told me that someone within the Van Epps campaign is going to be. He said, "Look out! They're going to be launching an attack campaign because of the web developer that you brought up." So I'd be curious to know where you got that information, because that takes a little bit of effort to look it up.
John, I got it on your website.
Okay.
You asked me, and I will tell you. Your website, at the bottom of your website, says, website made by NXTGEN agency.
Right.
That's where I got the information, pal.
And so you thought, oh, gee, I wonder if that is owned by a leftist organization?
I clicked on the bottom of that. There's a link, and it links to the Next Gen agency. And I went to their link, and I looked them up.
Okay.
And every single one of their candidates is a leftist candidate. Except you.
Except me. First time for everything.
But you have no idea what was your campaign manager's name again?
Austin
what?
Austin Campbell.
But you've never, you know this now, and you've not bothered to ask Austin how he found this organization?
What's it matter? Again, if they're capable at their job, we use Amazon, we use Google. I imagine you use Google.
Fair.
Google is one of the most pernicious groups out there that uses all kinds of people's.
But you would prefer to pay money to a leftist socialist as opposed to paying money to someone who more represents or better represents your personal values and beliefs?
I will use people who are good at their job and can follow through.
I mean, you're paying your money to design this website, right?
Yeah.
And you're paying it to a socialist that it uses that money to advance socialist causes, right?
If you insist, sure.
You don't get the logic.
Is my cause socialist?
I mean, you can laugh it off. You don't get the logic.
No, your logic is
you're
flawed.
You're paying money to Gabriella. Gabriella uses that money to advance socialism in the United States of America, and you don't have a problem with that.
She advanced my cause, which is not socialist. Therefore, no, your argument is invalid.
No. I mean, I beg to differ, John. I think my.
You think I have a socialist policy? What stance do I have that's policy?
My argument is that you had a lot of picks to make in terms of who designed your website.
You're right.
Right, and you selected this person, and then when you found out that this person was advanced the causes of leftist and socialism in the United States of America, you don't have a problem with that. They use your money to advance socialism in America, and that doesn't bother you.
I chose someone based on the ability to make a website. We choose Facebook, we choose Google, we choose Amazon. All these people have a bunch of different outlets and political.
I'm just trying to understand it. So if you don't win this election, who do you hope does?
It doesn't really matter to me. I would say for me personally, it would be better if Matt wins.
But recognizing that your presence in the race is hurting Van Epps.
It's not my fault. That's 100% on the Republican Party. Had they let me in the primary, I would have been primaried out and I wouldn't be running right now. Alternatively, had they not put outside money into the race during the primary, we'd have Jody Barrett. He would trounce me easily, and Afton with no not even lifting a finger.
Yeah, and
that has nothing to do with me.
And Jody Barrett and Jody Barrett was the beneficiary of outside money too, as you well know. Sure. Obviously.
Yeah, I mean everybody is, right. Anybody that's big enough, but. But you're suggesting that Van Epps only won because of outside dollars, and I would say yes.
Well, I would suggest to you that Jody Barrett was the recipient of $350,000 of in-kind outside money that came from Washington D.C. too, right?
Sure, and what we're talking about
is... But you're discounting that money.
No, I'm saying it's a dollar for dollar. What is it? $2.5–3 million versus $300,000.
I mean, I think if we mention one, we should mention the other, don't you?
Yeah, sure.
In the interest of transparency and honesty, which you say
is
the hallmark of your campaign.
And Afton's campaign got a whole bunch of money as well. I'm sure a ton of those campaigns got all kinds of money from outside.
Look, I wish you well in your effort. I don't think that you're going to. I mean, with all due respect, I don't think that your presence is going to impact the outcome of the election, which I'm glad for, because I think if it did, it would be negative toward the 7th Congressional District. But anything else that you want to speak to the audience about?
Yeah, I would say anything that pulls away from the Republican and Democratic parties is a positive, is a boon for the 7th District, not a negative. Independents are the only ones that truly care about the voters themselves, about the people that live here. Everybody else, you get to Washington, they're going to represent the parties, not the people.
And the people in Washington, D.C. that you look up to are?
Rand Paul, Thomas Massey. Those are pretty good.
Very good. John, thank you for being on with us. There's John Thorpe, a guest for the hour. It's 56 after the hour on Super Talk.